Hi, this is Hank Friedman. This is part 2 of my tutorial on Solar Fire Gold's Page Designer. As I mentioned in part 1, I have a website, soulhealing.com, which is the ultimate guide to astrology software. I also have another one, solarfiregold.com, that focuses specifically on this program. And I'll keep adding tutorials to that website. If we go back to the Page Designer by clicking on Utilities and then down to the bottom from the one from the bottom, Page Designer, and move it over to the right half of the screen, we now can begin the next part of the tutorial. We'll click on File and we'll click on Open to open the saved file. If you remember, it was called Hank's New Bi-Wheel, and there it is. One thing I mentioned to you was that after you work on the screen that you want, then you need to make another page size, but only afterwards, after you have everything else on there. So now I'm going to click on Page Size and go to Add a New Page Size. Why? Because I want to be able to print it out. So I click on Printer, click on OK, and now we can see the chart as it would appear on the printer. Notice it lays it out pretty well to begin with, but there's one thing that you may notice. Since the printer dimensions are portrait instead of landscape, meaning longer than wider, we can actually have bigger charts than we had the other way around. And so, for instance, if we take this chart, we move it to the top corner, and we start making it a bit bigger, we can see that we can make the width and height quite a bit bigger. I'm going to make the height 0.5 and hit Enter. And then I'm going to go to the other chart and do the same thing, 0.5 and hit Enter. And notice that didn't change the size. So we'll go back to the width on this one. This is 0.658. So let's make that 0.66 just to keep it even, and go to the other chart and make that one 0.662. 0.66, Enter. Now that's a lot bigger. And we'll put there, and we see we actually have a little more room. So let's actually make it 0.7, Enter. Make it even a little bigger, and make the other one 0.7, Enter. And now we have two nicely sized bi-wheels for a printed page. And let's save that. I'll hit Alt F and then S to save it. Let's take a look at what it looks like. We go back to the View menu and we choose Hank's New Bi-Wheel and both people and click View. And here's something many of you may not know. There are 3 buttons at the bottom. One shows the normal view, one shows the print preview, and one shows the print preview magnified, so you can zoom in on parts of it. But we just want to see how the print preview is going to look. So we click on the middle button, and now we can see exactly how it's going to print out on the printer, and it's actually really fine. You see both wheels are very readable. We have all the advantages we'd want, and so we're done. In other words, we just created a page size that works for the printer with the wheels large enough to really be visible. Let's start with a new page. Let's say you just started using the Page Designer and you want to know what some of the objects are. Because remember, you can add a new object, but there's a whole bunch of them. The captions are all just words in a box, so they don't really need preview. But for instance, let's say you go to Chart Wheels and you want to see what are your choices of uniwheel. So you insert a uniwheel, and then you look at Wheel File and click on the button up here, and you see you've got all these choices of uniwheels, but you don't know what they are. How can you get an image of each of those uniwheels to see which one you like? That's when you go back to the main program. If you double click on a chart, it'll show you a screen. If you then click Wheel Style and go to the very beginning and click that, you get to see the first wheel. Then you can use the down arrow key to see a preview of each of the additional wheels to get a sense of how it looks. That's an exceptionally good feature. Now let's say instead you want to get a sense of the other objects. There's lots of other objects. There's aspect grids, there's planet features. And again, it may show you a shape preview of some of these, but that doesn't really tell you much. How do you get to look at them? Quit the image on your left and go to Reports, the third menu from the left. Then click on Current Chart, and you get the window that's called Chart Reports and Tabulations. Go over here where it says Reports and go over and click on the Tabulations tab. And this will show you all the tabulations available within SolarFire. And almost every single one is available in the Page Designer. So for instance, if you want to do a modulus sort, which shows you a grid here, you'll find that grid under, I believe, Graphics. Yeah, Graphics. This would be a modulus strip sort, and it shows you it's the same thing as this. If you want chart balances, here's images of all the chart balances. You can do it two different ways. You can do it as a non-graphical thing, which would be under balances. See that? Quadrants, elements, modes, rays, temperaments. Or you could do it under graphical elements, modes, and so on. So if you want the boxes on the right, you choose them from under the graphical menu. If you want the numerical, you choose them under the balances menu over here. House cusps, is that available here? Yes, it is. You just scroll up and you'll see that in fact house cusps is available right there under houses. See? And so what you can do is use these tabulations to see what choices there are, what different objects there are, and then find them over on your right under objects. For instance, closest aspect table. I find that table, which is at the bottom here, incredibly useful. It shows you all the aspects from strongest to weakest. And sure enough, under aspects, you can see where it says nearest aspects. List of aspects in order of closeness. So this is very, very useful. You can use the tabulations to show you all the different objects that are available and what they look like, so you can add them to your page design. Now, there are many other utilities, including a wheel designer in SolarFire. The wheel designer is a bit more challenging to use than the page designer. But for those who are industrious, they can in fact play with it and explore it and find out how to use it. You can grab things. It still has some graphical grabbing capabilities, making circles bigger or smaller. Let's say you make that one a bit bigger, and then you make the center one a bit bigger, and you've just changed how the center of the chart looks. You can open any wheel and change it. I would recommend that you get the SolarFire 5 manual, which had much more description of the wheel designer if you're going to work with that feature, and that is available through me. In any case, I wanted to show you a few more features. I know this is a shorter video, and I welcome you again to go to solarfiregold.com to learn more about SolarFire Gold and see all of my written as well as video tutorials, as well as to go to soulhealing.com for the ultimate guide in astrology software, where I show you what techniques are susceptible to birth time differences, reviews of all the major programs, and much more. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.